Hey everybody, it's Karen Anderson here with Aortichope, and this is our week in review. And I completely don't remember the exact date, but it was from last Monday, because I don't have that on the calendar right this minute. And I'm so excited because I have a special co-host with me today. This is fellow community member and survivor Chris Adams. Woohoo! This is my round of applause. See that, Joan?
I appreciate
it. So our format here, in case all of you that might be watching us live or in replay, is I'm going to ask you to please like and subscribe to this channel so that you're going to be notified of other live events as they happen. And we would appreciate a comment as well. Ask us a question. You can interact with us. We'd love to chat back with you. If you are watching us on replay, please go ahead and leave a comment. We will interact with you. We'd love to chat back at you. So like and subscribe. We are going to get started right away with what was Motivation Monday, which was the day after. So it was the 24th. I just realized it because Sunday was January 23rd, and that's Caregivers Day because they make giving care look as easy as 1, 2, 3. So yeah, let's pick it up with Motivation Monday. And it was that time of the month again where we know doing nothing is still doing something. However, many of us sometimes need support to just simply get moving, whatever that might be for you. And we basically created this movement to help support people, provide some motivation, and get people moving, whatever their doctors approved them to do. So I think I went live briefly that day. Oh, I did. I did go live. It was my 4-year stomaversary, and I showed everybody how I was organizing all of my ostomy supplies, which is moving because it takes me a while. There's a lot of boxes to unpack, and I like to keep all of my stuff nicely and organized. So I just finished doing out my closets, cleaning out my closets, which seems to never end. But I did that, and my muscles were so sore, up the ladder, down the ladder, the whole 9 yards. So what do you find that you do to get yourself up and moving a little bit, Chris?
Gosh, I run on coffee. I'm not even gonna lie about it. I run on coffee, and it's funny. I'm 36 years old, um, and I actually didn't even drink coffee for the first time until 2020. It was probably like the summer of 2020. Mm-hmm. I was so nervous to try it because I was like, man, I'm gonna hate it. And then, just like a lot of people, I went and tried Starbucks for the first time and got out to the car and drank it and went back in, got another one. I think I did that twice. And ever since then, I drink coffee every day to get started. I try to I still get up at 5 a.m. Even though I'm not working.
Yeah.
I still get up at 5 a.m. I cannot sleep later than that. And I swear my wife will sleep till noon if you let her. But usually my two dogs, they're usually the reason why I get up in the first place at 5 a.m. because they need to go outside and do their business and everything. So that's usually what does that.
Watch that caffeine.
Caffeine free.
Hey, it looks like Joel Amos is trying to join us, even though he's muted and camera is off. Are you guest calling in?
Yes, I am there. Wait, oh, there. Come on now.
It was almost there.
There we are. It should be on.
You got it.
We hear you. We don't see
howdy,
you.
Hi.
Howdy, hi. We were just getting started. If your camera comes into view, great. If not, no big deal. That's how we do it here. We just kind of wing it and see how it turns out. It's the content and the people that matter.
It should be on because
I see him.
Let's try to refresh.
Turn camera off.
In the meantime. That's interesting. So I'm seeing what we're doing, what we're talking about. That's kind of cool.
I say now I don't see him. I did before.
This has really quickly, it's going to turn into an IT training session for the world. But we're just going to go with it. It's kind of, so while Joel figures this out and can hear the producer in the background, if we figure it out, we figured out.
Yeah.
Gotta watch that caffeine intake there.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I drink caffeine free
Oh,
for
good.
that
You're
for
decaf.
that reason. For that
There you go.
reason.
Well, then it's good, right?
Yeah. And I'm like you, I also have Crohn's disease, and what I've found is if I have if I have any sort of caffeine,
Yeah.
it upsets my stomach,
Right.
So any caffeine related, I mean, I ever since April, whenever this, you know, dissection happened,
Hmm.
I literally stricted just water. I don't
Gotcha.
I don't drink anything else at this point other than the coffee.
Well, I will admit, I went on to a spree when my father passed in November. Everybody was coming over, and there was a lot of Coca-Colas, and it just, it's been bad. And then I got on the scale the other day, and I was like, wow, yeah, that Coca-Cola can add weight really, really fast. So I cold turkeyed, and every time I was driving today, and I saw those golden arches, and they were calling me, "Don't you want a fountain Coke?" And
Oh,
it took everything to look away, and I
yeah.
just waited until I got home and grabbed my water. I keep looking at the scale. I'm like, don't have a Coke, because it's amazing how
And
fast.
Well, and
It's
it's
terrible.
another thing that's interesting is like so for the last 2 months, I started right after Thanksgiving. For the last 2 months, I've been drinking at least 1 gallon of water a day, and it's amazing how hard it is, or at least it was in the beginning, for
Hmm.
like the first 3 weeks of how hard it was to drink a gallon of water. But you can consume a Coke, you can consume, for me, sweet tea. All
Hmm.
that stuff was extremely easy to just, I mean, you give me a gallon of that stuff, I could knock it out by noon,
Right.
you know? And water, like I mean, even today, like I'm drinking water till 8:30 at night,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to get my 1 gallon in. And
Mhm.
it's still a challenge.
But that's good.
Yeah.
yeah.
Joel,
Small changes.
welcome. We got your
Yes.
camera. We were talking about the Movement for Movement Monday, and I was saying how I went live on Facebook to kind of go over. I was just storing all my ostomy supplies, cleaned out all the drawers, and I just finished cleaning my closets over the weekend, and just, alternate ways of moving. Just, because eventually as you get older and you don't move, especially if you start um, a lack of exercise after you've had a
Uh,
dissection or surgery, you wake up, it's like, I feel like I'm the Tin Man. I am just stiff, so stiff.
I
So it's
I
just, yeah.
I gotta say I I suffer from what was diagnosed in 1988 as hereditary depression, i.e., I can't do anything about it. So the doctor put me on Prozac for life, but over the years, I've learned that exercise is as good as the medication they give me, if not better. And what's interesting is after the dissection, the doctor used the words no exertion. I can't lift 10 pounds. I should not walk more than 20, 30 minutes. But what I found is that 20, 30 minutes makes all the difference in the world in my disposition and my view of life. And then the pandemic hit, and I had belonged to the Y, and I was walking on the treadmill there, and trouble started because I live in a blue state, but I live in a part of the state where they're very anti-mask. So walking outside is a big no-no. So I was stuck inside for the better part of a couple years. Well, not better part of a couple years. About halfway through the pandemic, a bunch of family and friends got together and bought me a treadmill. And so somehow we got it down into the basement in my office. And I walk on that thing every day. And I notice if I start my day with that, I have a very, very good day. If I don't start with my day with that, I don't have a very good day. And I currently, right now, I'm going through a really, really hard time because on December 20th, I was chasing my 8-year-old around the living room wearing my best slippery socks on the hardwood floor, and I wiped out. And not only did I wipe out, but I landed on my wife's barbell on my hip.
Mm.
And that really hurt, like a lot. And next thing I know, my hip turned purple. Well, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm on blood thinners for a PE and a DVT that I've had many years ago. And that's another thing that they say you're going to be on for life. Well, it didn't take very long, thanks to the blood thinner, for the injury of the hip to, thanks to gravity, work its way all the way down to my leg. And I ended up in the ER. I ended up back in the ER because my foot turned purple, my whole leg turned purple, the back of my leg was black, and it was intense pain. And the doctor told me that blood is never as angry as it is when it's between the muscle and the skin because it doesn't belong there. And I gotta say, I have noticed, because I can't walk. I'm very, very close to getting back on that treadmill. But the difference in my mood, just ask my wife, the difference in my mood has been night and day. So even though I am not, I mean, I can't lift weights because of my restrictions. I can't, uh, I can't do pretty much anything. I try to walk slowly around the basement as much as I can, but it's not the same as walking on the treadmill. So believe me when I say that movement is key, and it's not just key to our health and our aortic health and avoiding some kind of problems that can come down the line for us physically, but it is priceless mentally. I've noticed that in the last month or 8 weeks since this has happened, there are many days where I wake up and I just don't want to get out of bed. And I never feel that way when I walk regularly. So, Motivation Monday is much more than a slogan. It needs to be a way of life.
Yeah. That's great. You know what? You can be our spokesperson for that. You should get on. You should get on one time and go live with me. And we should, when you're feeling better and you can walk, I think there would be a lot of benefit to having a walk and talk.
Yeah.
And we just go live as much as we can get signal, and we're walking and we're motivated, because by the time you're done having conversations, it's been a half hour, 40 minutes. It goes by relatively quickly. I know another person was talking about just the struggles of weight gain from beta blockers and just, this time of year, plus we're in a pandemic, seeing if there's a way maybe we can also help to motivate each other, not going on diets, but just be eating better, even if it's one change, and just being accountable to each other, you know?
Well, it's actually interesting. My wife, who she doesn't really, but she used the words "I really hate you" because I haven't exercised in about 6 8 weeks, but I've lost about 15 pounds. And yeah, there goes the head turn from Karen. It's a male thing. I think our metabolisms are different. We just think about losing weight and we drop 10 pounds. And I just noticed my clothes are fitting better, but it's not, for me, it's about the mental health. It really is. And you control your food portions, you can control what you eat. There are ways of losing weight if that's your goal, but exercise is about so much more than the weight on the scale.
You are right. You are right. Well, we're going to start to incorporate that. I think there's a way to make it be a movement for movement, mental health movement for movement type of Monday. Let's do
I
that.
like it.
I
And
like it too.
you mentioned about how you feel better in the morning whenever you walk for that half hour because your endorphins are
Right.
kicking in high gear, and you feel better doing that than what you do. Uh, I what I typically do in like the gym is I'll walk for that half hour that I'm told to walk, but then we've got these. I call them a sit down elliptical. I have no idea what the technical name for it is, but it's like an elliptical machine because you're sitting there moving your arms and your legs are both moving too. But I sit down and I do that for a half hour as well because that half hour, like, yeah, I can work up a sweat and I can get my heart rate up a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm not satisfied with that half hour. I was initially, but I'm not now. So then I'll do a half hour on that. But you mentioned not being able to walk, and I don't know if you still have your gym membership or not, but I
No.
know and that's that's the unfortunate part about what I'm gonna say is, from where you can't walk, um, my gym has the arm bike, so
Mm.
you can still do that for a half hour because you're not using your legs at all. You're just sitting there moving your arms. And at that point, your endorphins are still kicking in. You're still getting your heart rate up. You're still being able to move. You're able to move those upper body muscles that you're normally not moving whenever you're walking. So I mean, it's switch up, but again, you don't have your gym membership anymore because you don't need it. So
Well, that and the pandemic.
right.
Right. Makes for an interesting time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right. We are going to move on to this was actually day 2 of acknowledging our caregivers. So Sunday of last week, January 23rd, was our aortic caregiver appreciation day because they make giving care look as easy as 1, 2, 3. So it was day 2, which was on Monday, and there was this really great article from the Cleveland Clinic that highlighted all the different aspects of having successful caregiving. And basically what I did here is just kind of took it down to a summary. And one of the things that they talked about in caregiving, and this could be applicable to any of us if we've had to give care to anybody for any reason, right, on a consistent basis, would be giving ourselves a break. But ironically, we should be doing that as survivors too, right? We should give ourselves a break. Take a crash course in the disease. I don't know about you guys, but of course, when this happened to me, my mother was like, "What's an aorta?" Most people don't know what it is, right? And my husband on my first follow-up appointment came with a notepad. He's like, "Did she have cardiac tamponade and malperfusion?" And the doctor asked him, "What do you do for a living?" I'm a financial advisor, but he Googled all of the worst that we've all read, and then wrote down all those words because they never really had a chance to talk, but now is his chance. And I just sat there, like half a shell of a person, barely able to hold my body up as he's going through all this stuff. But he definitely took a crash course. Seek family assistance. Caregivers should always seek other people's assistance as well. Implement financial and legal planning. I mean, it's a great time. It's always a good time to implement some of that whenever you can. Join a support group. And not only have we implemented the caregiver support group page on Facebook and the grief, we now also have support group meetings specifically for caregivers, which is really nice. That's new for 2022. And take advantage of other community resources. So this was the summary of what was in that article. And I'm going to throw it off to Joel if you have any thoughts on something like this.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the most wonderful things that I think aortichope does is um, we don't recover, we don't experience what we've gone through in a vacuum. There is a group of people that support us in life in general that are going to come to your side, and you also find out who your friends are. Some people have difficulty with their mortalness and will kind of keep their distance until you're feeling better, and they're like, "Oh, hey man, how you doing?" But like, I gotta be honest, like my wife has just been incredible, and uh, my daughter too. Just the understanding that dad's not 100%, but he's pretty good. He's good to go. He can play. We can do lots of fun stuff together. But I think that an unheralded group, besides nurses, is our caregivers, and I think our caregivers deserve a whole lot of credit, and it's more than time that they are saluted. And even this morning, I had trouble getting up again, and the first person in my room was my wife. Like, come on, get up, breakfast, your daughter's waiting for you. And just that reinforcement that my dissection it'll be 6 years in March, and here we are years later, and she's still plugging away just like that. And she admits, and she talks to people, and she says, it's hard. She's like, it's really frustrating. She's like, when you say sickness and health in those wedding vows, you really don't think that this is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that is what we're talking about. So it's been incredibly helpful. I have friends that I had lost touch with that reached out to me, that I now am still very much in touch with. So it's important. And And one thing I learned before my dissection is I was very much a believer in friendships and relationships are a two-way street. And if I'm calling you and you never call me, I'm just going to sit here and wait until you call me. Well, if that happens, you're never going to call me. And one thing I learned from my dissection is that forget that. Who cares about that? It's not about who called when to who. I just picked up the phone and called, or I just send an email or a text or whatever. So, your support group can be people that you haven't even thought of that are out there that you knew, 20 years ago. You can just be like, hey, how's life? How's it going? Because you never know, because you guys were friends once. Who says that you can't be friends again? So I think it's very important to expand your friendship group, so expand your support group, because not everybody can be there for you 24/7. But if you have a group of people that care about you, there should be somebody you can call on all the time.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Chris?
No, I mean, I I agree wholeheartedly. Um, you know, um, my wife is a nurse, so unfortunately, I kind of get I get the good and the bad with that. Um, and uh, like your spouse, Karen, um, my wife was taking it all in, and she's going through everything with them, and the surgeon at one point, well, I was, again, my story's completely different. I was in a coma for 5 weeks, but um at one point, I get probably the first week that I was in the coma, she's sitting there asking the surgeon and the nurses, saying, look, something's clearly not right. He should be awake by now. What's going on? Why is he not, doing this? She told us we were going to go home in a week. We're past the week. He's still not out of a coma. What's going on? His blood pressure's through the roof. Again, I had day 8. They tested me again, and I had COVID on day 8. So I either got it while I was there, or I had a false negative going in. Um, and at one point, the surgeon goes, nurse, and she's like, yep. And but she knew everything to ask, what was going on, and luckily for me, she wrote it all down in a journal. And you know again, going back to like a couple weeks back, there was a post that was on there that said, when you can tell your story and you don't tear up about it, that's when you're healed. And I literally get to like page 11 of her writing that stuff down, and it just gets me every time, you know. Um, and again, and the again, my story is completely different because my grandfather went into the hospital the exact same day I did for a heart attack, 8 hours after I went in for the aorta, and he died 3 days later while I was in a coma. So like going back to your state of depression and stuff. I didn't know how real that was until at 36 years old. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat, and I had to learn all that stuff all over again. And it's very real. And I truly don't know what I would do without my wife. I really don't. Um, she pushes me. She pushes me to my limits and probably past that sometimes. Because she, upsets me. But she says it's her job.
He
So
looked over his shoulder. Did the door
yeah,
shut?
yeah. She says that's her job. Um, but last week on the thing, Karen, you said, give it a year and see where you're at, in a year, and I'm only at what 10 months, but you said sometimes there's days where your husband says, if all you can do is give 10%, give 100% of that 10%. What my wife does is she literally writes down stuff that she would like done in the house throughout the week, and I'll go through there and I'll just do my little checklist and get all this stuff accomplished. And today I felt really good. Today I knocked out literally everything that's on her list. You know, that's for my whole week. She doesn't need to know that I did everything today. You know, maybe I can get by with not doing anything for the next 4 or 5 days. I It's doubtful, but it's worth a try. But that's the I took what you said last week about that being the 10% and the 100%. I really took that to heart, and I think today I was literally trying to prove to myself that, hey, I can do all this and that I can do all that. But yeah, I think your spouse is having a good one to rely on. That's everything.
I gotta laugh.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I gotta laugh because my wife is Superwoman, Wonder Woman, and Captain Marvel all rolled in the name.
Same.
But I gotta say, it's funny. I'm a writer. I think, as Karen knows, and I am writing a book about my experiences, and I'm nearing the end. And my wife, my whole life, has been my editor, and I swear I would not be where I am today as a writer if she was not my editor. But I'm in the market for an editor because she refuses to read my book because, as she said, I'm sorry, I lived it.
And that's an interesting point. People will sometimes say, what do you do to celebrate your aortiversary? Do you even celebrate? And on the first one, my family and we went out to dinner. It's great celebration. I told everybody I was expecting presents because, if I get a shot, I want a present because it went through a big deal. And then year two came and I was like, okay, it's another like birthday. And they said, no, we're not going to do this with you every year. Come find us like every 5, because we do it every day. And I found that very interesting because I didn't really give much consideration to that. So this year's 7-year aortiversary, which was on Saturday, kind of came and went. We only talked about it ever so briefly, and there was just other stuff that was going on in my life that took priority. But it is very interesting. When I talked to my mom, the things that she recants and we go over each time was, the initial phone call from my family saying I was in the hospital. They just assumed it was Crohn's. So they chalked it up until they got the call from my husband that said, no, they think it's something related to her heart. It's kind of serious. And, then the world stopped. And she tells me about everything leading up to it. And my husband, he shares with me the moment that a light bulb went off in the family waiting room and he realized, I'm not going to lose her today. He had nobody had come in to talk to him, but something just hit him and he looked around at all the other family members that happened to be there. And he said, I just know today's not the day I'm going to lose her. And they think about this stuff all the time. And yet
all the time.
And yet they're there to pick up the pieces of where we cannot give in any given day. And that's okay. That it's okay. It took a long time to realize it's okay to not be able to give to what my own set of expectations were. I'm the only one that creates those expectations. My husband will often say, you tell me what you think you can do today, because it'll be different tomorrow. But if you tell me you're going to cook dinner, I'm coming home from work thinking there's going to be dinner. But if you tell me before 6 p.m. you're just too tired, you hit a wall, then I'm big boy. I'll cook my own meal. So we had to change our way of communicating to adapt to this new health issue, which is chronic. It is. And it's a balancing act, to be a patient and a survivor and try to be part of an organization that services the same community that I'm part of. It's, in my home, it's making that balance for my family and for my husband and saying, okay, so maybe today aortichope doesn't get as much from me because I really do have to clean the shower. If I'm sitting on the bench, I can clean what I can reach. I can't bend over. I can't have my arms too long over my head, so I got to do the midsection. That's the agreement. Or today might be the day that I, wipe down all the cabinets. Knowing that once I do that, I'm kind of done for the rest of the night, but I have to balance out my schedule on what gets that 10%, if that's all I have that day. So you're right. Hats off to these caregivers because their lives were upended, and it wasn't our fault. These things just happen. We know as he always says to me, if the tables were reversed, how would you feel about things with me? And I realize there's no question. It would be the exact same way. It's a no-brainer.
No.
So we celebrate them once a year. We should celebrate them at some point all the time. But
I think we do at home.
I think we do too. I think you're right. And to those people that unfortunately don't have that consistent caregiver, I think your point is right, Joel. Rely on your friends. Don't feel like you're going to be a burden. These people love you, and when people say, "How can I help?" you will quickly weed out those that are just saying it because they don't know what else to say, and those that truly mean it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep. Amen.
Oh, wait, we have. I'm sorry.
Hello.
The name again is from New Zealand. Hello, hello, and happy pre-aortiversary. 13 years is wonderful. I'd love to know your story in more detail and feature you in our Survivor series. Look at that shameless plug. Look how I made that happen. But thank you so much for
Work that
being
in there well.
This is great. What time is it in New Zealand? Anybody? Late. It's
Siri,
probably,
what time is it in New Zealand?
where are
9:30 a.m.
Oh, so it's already tomorrow. Right, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Okay, so I'm saying it's late. Look, this is how bad you laid out a map. You're lucky I can find home. All right, on that note, before I embarrass myself too much, but thank you for joining us. We're going to move on to this was another post that we had. This was on the final day of Caregivers Day. And this was because we just recently celebrated Caregivers Day. It's really important that our caregivers, as we were talking about, are made aware of our current medical history and any changes that happen. So sometimes they can't go with us to every doctor's appointment, and it is really important that you share. And this would include any changes to medications, any restrictions, test results. They really need to know everything. I would guarantee you your caregivers track it all meticulously in their brain, and there's a high probability that we might forget things. And it's important because if you end up in the ER, they can properly relay this information if it's not already in the medical, system. But it's equally important that physicians communicate clearly in an easy to understand terminology exactly what's going on with our condition. And just we have to remember that with our caregivers and doctors, communication is a two-way street. The more knowledge that the caregivers have, the more they can relate to first responders and other physicians if necessary. Knowledge is power between ourselves, caregivers, and physicians, which led us into Think Aorta, Think Family. There's a lot of reasons why you want to share this information, and that's because if something does happen to you, your pediatricians, all these doctors should be able to now create a bigger picture and connect dots. Before the event, they're not connecting dots, but after and once you're diagnosed, they should connect dots. So any thoughts to any of that about communication?
I I just would say that communication, I think, is key to life, and I think it applies to everything. I mean, whether the president of the United States, I mean, he or she needs to communicate to the American people what's going on and what we're going to do about it. And without it, we've got problems and miscommunication and misinformation. And I think it goes down to the smallest level between two people. And I think that it's very important to be very aware of what your doctor's appointments. And because I have a young child, my wife can't come with me. But after a couple of doctor's appointments and I got home and she's like, okay, what did the doctor say? And I was like, something about something. And I think he told me to, yeah, next week, or I don't remember. So she sent me with a notebook. So now I go to the notebook and I document everything the doctor says, and we go over it the second I get home. And I think it's key to document all that stuff and to be aware of that stuff. Um, and communication is just key. And it's also like you need to be very communicative with your doctor. I mean, like I said, I went to the ER for my leg, and I was just like, I can't, man, my leg has a bruise on it. I'm not going to go to the ER. But my doctor said, because of the blood thinner, you might have to have that drained, and there's only one place they can do that, and that's the hospital. So it's the kind of thing where you just need to communicate. You need to err on the side of caution. You need to go to that hospital, tell them everything that's going on with you, and let them decide what's going to happen with you. And I just think it may be one of the most important things in life, regardless of your health or anything. Communication is key. There's a reason why that has become an iconic phrase.
Absolutely. Chris, any thoughts?
Communicating, like especially like doctors' offices around here. I'm part of the Norton Healthcare facilities. So we can literally go online and pull up, it's called Norton My Chart.
Mhm.
And
that.
it literally describes everything that happened in every doctor's appointment that I've had since my dissection. So the last couple months, my wife hasn't gone with me to my doctor's appointments, but she can literally pull it up on her phone at work, whatever, and she can literally see what happened in that doctor's office. She can see what my blood pressure was. She can see all that fabulous information that's there. She can see all of it.
She can see
So
what the doctor said.
yeah, yeah, because frankly, even if I have a notebook and I write it down, I can't write as fast as they talk,
No
and
way.
and
No
I
way.
definitely can't spell out words that are longer than 7 letters. Like it's not going to happen. That's just not who I am.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
my chart has been heaven.
yeah,
It has been heaven.
yeah, I carry a notebook with me, like we mentioned last week. I carry a notebook with me every single day just to write down stuff that I'm thinking about, or stuff to ask a doctor in the future or whatever. But as far as the actual appointments, they literally write everything down, and then they even write down like what the questions were that I asked them and what they said to explain it. They write all that stuff down so that I don't have to remember anything. And that right there is a lifesaver for me.
I love
Because
everybody's tools and what they do and
yeah,
how
I
they.
mean, it was gonna get to the point to where, for my doctor's appointments, I was gonna pull up my phone and start recording.
I've
You
done
know,
that.
I was just gonna set down the voice recorder, let it play out for the 15, 10, whatever minutes it is that your appointment lasts, and that way, whenever she asked me how things went, I just hit play and let her listen. You
Mhm.
know, I don't have to do anything else. That's what it was going to come to. But because they literally type everything out, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, my chart's amazing.
Perfect. Yep,
Just
it
amazing.
really is. All right, so we know we're going to always communicate that stuff with our caregivers in case we're incapacitated and we can't talk for ourselves. All right, this is bringing us to Wisdom Wednesday. And this was all about a term called chronic disease, which I think for some reason people take this terminology a little bit differently. But it, as defined in Wikipedia, a chronic condition is a human health condition or disease. It is persistent or otherwise long lasting in its effects or a disease that comes with time. The term chronic is often applied when the course of the disease lasts for more than 3 months. So from the moment you're diagnosed with having aortic disease, you've stepped into a world of follow-up appointments, stress of not trying to be stressed, right? Figuring out what your new norm will be and more. As noted in creakyjoints.org, the article was titled 22 Things to Try When You Feel Overwhelmed by Chronic Illness, and it was published by Charlotte Hilton Anderson. It states that even after you've accepted your diagnosis, the uncertainty about your future and the unpredictability of day-to-day life is a lot to deal with. And I pulled up here that article. And we can just take a little stab at some of these 22 here. But when you're feeling overwhelmed, I think we can just I do it. Take a mind nap. I take a nap. Nap. What actually is a mind nap? This is interesting. It says take a blank sheet of paper and draw a circle in the middle and write I'm overwhelmed in the circle. And from there, you draw branches out of the main circle, labeling each new circle with something that's contributing to your feelings right now. And the goal is just getting it out on paper is your mental nap because you're putting it from here in some other form. Me, I just say out loud, I am not thinking about this right now. And that's it. Just, I say that. My husband has heard me and he's like, are you talking on the phone? I say, no, I'm just not thinking about something right now. So taking a
Right,
mind map. I thought it
writing
Yep.
said nap.
writing it down and then putting branches out too before you wrote "I am overwhelmed." Frankly, seems overwhelming to me to
Okay, so
even do
yeah,
that. So,
yeah,
like, I'm not even gonna
totally
get the
get it.
paper out. Like, I'm just gonna not talk and go silent and just leave it at that. And that's your cue to leave me alone.
To
I'm
F
not
the
dealing with
bus
it.
up. All right. Prioritize your concerns. I think I do that more not in my health concerns, but more in just my day-to-day list of to-dos. I try to prioritize them and I move them to another day if I know it's just not happening. I don't move everything because I want to see that I accomplished something. And as I do things, I delete them off my to-do list. And then all of a sudden I look and I got nothing there. And it's either I did it or I've moved them. One way or another, it's empty. And then I feel like I accomplished something. So the trick. Keeping a feelings journal. I'm not a journal person. No, yeah, no, okay. But it's a good, but I know a lot of people that are. They love to write it down. My hand, it just starts looking like I've written with the pen in my toes. I can't read it, and then that stresses me out. So that's not happening. Distract yourself. It says, I do this. Hence TikTok. Watch a funny video online, play a quick game on your phone. I found a new game, which we're going to have to talk about. It's really great.
Wordle.
Well, Wordle's good, but oh God, what is it? It's I don't remember what it's called. It's they look like test tubes and they have different colored water in them. And you can only put corresponding colors, like colors on top of each other. So if there's an empty test tube and one test tube is like red, yellow, green, you can fill it with the red, take another test tube that has red available, fill it in there. If those two colors are available, you're just basically
I got
moving.
you.
So
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Love it. Do a meditation or gentle stretching routine. Go for a walk, listen to music or podcasts. And these are things I think people do all the time. They just don't make it so front and center and say, I am now doing something to distract myself. Read a chapter of a book. Do a hobby. Do something that you like to do. Scroll through photos. Look at funny, sarcastic illness memes. What? Does that really say that? Looking for, well, I guess I do. I mean, I did post one about my bag. My other bag is a Chanel, and it was a picture of a like sparkly ostomy bag. So yeah, I guess I do that too sometimes. But yeah, I think those are good ways of distracting yourself. Meditate on the present. Do either of you meditate?
No.
I don't meditate, but going back to what you said a while ago, where you said meditate or stretch or something like that, I actually did pick up yoga because I noticed that my flexibility after being in the hospital for so long just completely disappeared. Like I was not flexible at all, and picked up yoga and was able to go back and do that. And I do that literally every morning. Um, and I guess in a way, yeah, I guess you are kind of meditating while you're doing yoga. So I mean, I guess I get the answer. Yes, I guess I do.
Yeah.
Let go of perfectionism.
Huh.
And that I think for newly diagnosed people is very hard to do because you've got one foot in the old world and you don't want to put the other foot in the new world yet. And eventually you do just join the rest of us into the new world. But your new world could look very similar to the old one. I mean, just no way of knowing. Decide what is a want and what is a need. And I think a lot of people do that after almost dying. You come to this purging moment where you realize this is really more of a need. That's a want. There's just, you're too fatigued to really care. I felt very much like I wanted to just exfoliate all over. I didn't wear jewelry for months, let alone makeup, let alone wash my hair. I mean, still washing or drying my hair is very exhausting to my arms, but very quickly I went back to my wants. It was fun. It was only off kilter for a little while and then I went right back. Say no. Spoon theory. Either of you heard the spoon theory?
No.
There is no spoon.
Well, no, so kind of there. The interesting part, I know, don't we always somehow lose spoons in a house? There are always teaspoons missing in mine. So the spoon theory basically says that you only have spoonfuls of so much time and energy. So if somebody doesn't understand why you don't have energy to do something, what you can say is, all right, I'm going to give you 5 spoons. All right, you just woke up, brushed your teeth, and had breakfast. Give me a spoon. That cost you a spoon. Now you got to put your clothes on and your blood pressure is running a little low. I need another spoon. Okay, so you went downstairs and you fed your dogs and took them out for a walk. Nope, that was definitely another spoon because of that blood pressure issue. You got 2 spoons left and it's like 10:30 in the morning. And it kind of creates the picture of how valuable those spoons are, especially to someone with a chronic condition, and how much it costs us to do things that other people may take for granted. That's the spoon theory. It's very interesting. Other things to do would be to vent to a safe person, vent to somebody that you know you can trust, you can be vulnerable with. Ask your friends about themselves. There's nothing better than just saying, we're going to not talk about me and we're just going to go on to you and let me hear all about what's going on in your life, because it makes you forget about the overwhelming nature of your own. I love doing that one. Take a walk outdoors. As Joe was mentioning, there's just nothing like being outside, getting some fresh air, especially when it's not 18 degrees like it is here in Maryland. That's not safe for us. I like this one. Have a mantra. When I feel overwhelmed, I tell myself, you can do it. Or saying, I am doing the best that I can, one step at a time, progress over perfection, whatever your line is that you need to say to yourself. Like I'll say to myself, I'm not going to think about this right now. When I become too overwhelmed with grief or stress, I'm not going to think about this. The other thing that I tend to do instead of tapping is if I'm getting too stressed, I rub over my eyebrow. I've done this all my life. Other things you can do is take on other grounding techniques that utilize your senses. So this would be the sense of touch. Sometimes people will put a mint in their mouth just to feel something, that's touch, and also taste something and also smell something. And it will take your mind off of whatever is overwhelming you and stressing you out. So I go right to a repetitive motion, and then I start thinking about that and I forget what I was stressed about. Practice radical acceptance. So that's basically as quickly as you can get into, okay, this is where we're at. This is what I have. How are we going to handle it? It's game time. My husband will sometimes say, when I would get very stressed about having a scan, or if I ended up in the ER because I didn't feel well, I would get very emotional going into the ER. And he'd say, why are you so emotional now? Keep the game face on until there's something to really be emotional about, and then it's game time. So for right now, keep your wits about you, answer the questions, tell them you have PTSD, advocate for yourself, and if there's something to worry about, then you can break down all you want. But this is precursor. There's no breaking down. Or pre-gaming or something. Connect with someone, take a nap, tap into your spirituality. These are all great ways of decreasing the overwhelming feeling that we have sometimes. Do some research on your condition. I like that it says moderately, because sometimes we get caught into that Wikipedia world of WebMD, and we can spiral out into some very unupdated information that says that if we're approaching 5 years, you're gonna just be dead, and that's not the truth. Check your pride. When you're overwhelmed, ask for help. Life is short. Just ask for help, because the sooner you get the help and you're not overwhelmed, the happier you'll be. Take a trip down memory lane. Ask your loved ones what's important to them. Meet with a support group and listen to other people that are as equally overwhelmed. Know when it's time to go to a therapist and seek outside help. And do not be more proactive with arthritis. That has nothing to do with this. But yeah, so these are some of the 22. What are your thoughts on this? I've said a lot. Like, what are some of the things outside of what we talked about that you do to help you when you're feeling overwhelmed?
I think this is a pretty complete list. I think there's something here for everybody. I know listicles, as somebody who writes online, is the rage right now, and just give people 22 ways to blah blah blah, and then you're like, ooh, click. But this is actually, every single one of these is helpful, and will find someone that it can touch. And I think, sometimes you need a stew of this stuff. A couple of different things can work. I personally have just kind of, it just takes time. I think that's another thing that maybe they didn't put on this list, is like, allow yourself time. It just takes time. When I first dissected in the first year or two after it happened, and then I had the aortic aneurysm and another open heart surgery. It was like 3 or 4 years, and then I had stent surgery and another stent surgery, and like, I haven't had a surgery in 3 years, and I'm taking every day to celebrate that. And I think that there are little things that you can do, and you can realize that, yeah, it's a new normal, but like, maybe the new normal is going to be better than the old way, in different ways. And so I think this is a very important article. I think everybody should bookmark it, because there's something in there for everybody.
Yep. Chris, thoughts?
this is all just like so new to me, because literally, like I said, I'm not even a year in. Um, but what I really, really, absolutely just loved about this group was um, after it happened, after I got out of my uh, rehab stint and got to come home, I was anxiously looking for people that had gone through the exact same thing. And that's whenever I found this group and reading what people were writing, you know, years down the road and this, that, and the other, and having the weightlifting limits and stuff like that. And I think reading that, like, really, it cushioned for when I finally had to go into my doctor's office and he write me on a weightlifting limit for life. And at that point, I knew my career was over at UPS. I knew that my career was over before I ever even walked in the door. I just needed him to kind of seal that deal. And I've been completely and just so thankful for this group for actually putting that information out there and making it to where I could actually see that out there. And it's funny you said that thing, the last thing about arthritis, because in March I get to have a lumbar puncture. So, so I, I get to have I'm supposed to come off blood thinners and have an epidural. So, really looking forward to that.
God, so fun. Good times.
It's
But
a
every
party.
time that something happens, always picture there's a meme out there of someone going up a mountain and looking and saying, "Gosh, look, I got this big mountain to head up." Right? There's still challenges, but if you look over your shoulder, you'll realize at that 1 year mark, look how far you came. So you just always try to keep that in the back of your mind. Anytime you're looking at the future and you're thinking this is daunting,
Yeah.
just turn around for a split second and think daunting was when you were in a coma. That was pretty
Yeah.
darn daunting, and each episode or each surgery or each setback, I don't look at it as a setback. It's a moment in time of having this disease. You get to restart being at the bottom of that different mountain and heading back up, and everything has its time and place, right?
And it's and
Yeah.
again, it's funny that you mentioned about having this disease again, even though my wife is a nurse, she didn't explain that, hey, I thought, hey, I had an aortic dissection, I'm good to go. You know, I I had no idea until literally this group, joining this group on Facebook and seeing posts about it being a disease. And finally, she came home one day and I was like, I have a disease with this? And she was like, yeah, like this is what you're stuck with for life. And then she's like, you still have a tear in your descending side. Again, I had no clue. That I thought, hey, I'm good to go. I'm ready to, as soon as I can start talking and walking again, I'm back to work. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it is so life changing. It's unreal. And like you said, being this early in, being new to all this, yes, I do. I have 1 foot in the door and I have 1 foot out. There's several days where I tell myself I'm getting used to the fact that I still wake up at 5 a.m. and I don't go to work. I tell myself that. In reality, I am not used to that. I'm it still absolutely just kills me and frustrates me to not be able to do that. And like I said, I was completely blind to the fact that this is a disease. You know, I thought, man, I've already got Crohn's disease just like you do. What else do I need?
Well, and then there are people, because I have been corrected by a community member once before, that this happens, a dissection happens because of trauma, because they were in a car accident, because of a situation in giving birth, they had preeclampsia, because they took cocaine. So there are those other, you know, aspects where it's not necessarily a disease. However, they've compromised their aorta. They're going to need to be monitored anyway. So you kind of have to look at it as, is colitis something that once you have, it's incurable? No, it's not. It can be curable. Crohn's disease, on the other hand, isn't. They're both still part of IBD. So
Sure.
I kind of look at it as still encompassing under the umbrella. All right, let us go on to Therapeutic Thursday. And this was an article. There it is, Therapeutic Thursday. Can you live with an aortic aneurysm? And the answer is yes, you can. Many people are doing it right now. There's actually going to be a phenomenal article that's going to be published about this. Yes, me too. And there was an article from Penn Heart and Vascular blog that was titled, Can You Live with an Aneurysm? And it offers easy to understand information about what an aneurysm is, why it happens, how to live with it, and what you can do about it. They see it even talks about watchful waiting. We call it the watch and wait, what it is and which patients would be candidates to having any type of intervention and what does that mean. And if you go into this article, it's really interesting because there's so many different ways of fixing aneurysms. And we always hear, well, if it's 5 centimeters or 5.5, you need surgery. That depends on where it is. It depends on how fast the growth is. It depends if you're male or female, right? There's a lot of things that make that determination. So we're just going to quickly talk about if we have aneurysms right now, what's your size? Where is it? So I can tell you that mine is 4.8 and it's at the root and on the thoracic descending. And nothing I can do about it.
I have an abdominal aortic aneurysm. It's 5.5 centimeters, which when I talk to the abdominal aortic aneurysm support group, everybody and their grandmother is telling me to get it operated on. But my doctor is more under the impression that it hasn't moved from 5.5 in 3 years. Mm-hmm. And considering that there's such a risk of paralysis, quote unquote, let's use your legs while you have them. So he's waiting for it to get to 6. So in some ways, I feel like a ticking time bomb, but I just put that out of my head. And it's just, I mean, it hasn't moved at all in 3 years. So I feel pretty good about it. I know my doctor initially, when I was diagnosed, said it could be 3 months, it could be 10 years. So I'm thinking it's going to be 10 years.
Have they talked to you about being able to have a stent at all, or they're going to need to just replace that part?
They have my last appointment, and I guess the research is nearing its end. But he was very excited about a less invasive surgery that they might be able to do in the next year or two to just take care of it. So great? There is hope. Yeah, because I've seen those photos, and I'm just like, one doctor whose bedside manner needed some help said, "Oh yeah, it's a very morbid recovery." I'm like, I'm not sure you know what the word morbid means.
Well, I think because everybody thinks you're just like cut across your belly, right? Now you're talking a shark bite. I mean, they go
up here.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. He said, "I hope you don't plan on sitting up for a month."
That's big. But 10, 15 years ago, that was the only way they did it. Right. And now you look at all these advancements. So, I tell my husband, God, I don't think I could handle being cut back open again in my chest. And the reality is by the time this might grow, it might be standard that you don't. They go in through the wrist. So who knows?
Yeah.
Good stuff on the horizon. Yeah. Crossing fingers. Chris, do you have any aneurysms right now that anybody's watching?
Nope.
All right. Well, keep getting your scans, keep getting your follow-ups, and we'll hope it stays that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
All right. Who said that? Who said, well said, Karen? Thank you so much. Just pops out of my head from New Zealand. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment that I said something well said. Thanks. Friday in January, we actually had a Friday contest. So Saturday, we did not have a Survivor Series this past Saturday, although we do coming up. We have somebody coming up, someone that might be on this call actually is going to be featured. But just want to remind everybody that's watching or catches us on replay that we would love to feature your story in our Saturday Survivor Series and be the star, the shining star in someone's life. Just submit your story of survival. You can do this by going on live and talking to the community. You can be pre-recorded. You can also submit it in blog format. And if you've ever been misdiagnosed or you were held at bay for many hours. We would definitely love to hear about those stories as well. And we want to share them with Think Aorta, because that's kind of what Think Aorta's goal is to prevent the misdiagnosis and to decrease mortality and get more doctors to be thinking about the aorta when somebody presents in the hospital setting. So if you're interested, there is a link on our website, and you can just click the form, and we will be in touch with you, and we will get you featured. And if you've already been a survivor, we'd love to have you in our Where Are They Now initiative as well. So that is our Survivor series. So by the end of this weekend, I'll have both of you would have been survivors on our series featured, which is great. All right. And then on Sunday, we're going to talk about this real quick. It was Share With You Sunday at aortichope. I love these bizarre titles. We wanted to highlight our collaboration with Lawrence Hope. For those of you that do not know Lawrence Hope medical ID bracelets, you need to go check them out. They were created because a family member had a chronic illness, and as most things that are created, it solves a problem when somebody's young and they need to have that medical information on someone in case there's an emergency. But it is important to consider wearing a medical bracelet, whether you have an aneurysm or you've had a dissection. We offer them for people who have had a dissection, that they come out in all different versions. I mean, you can put so much information in these. It really will help a first responder. There you go. You wear that's a great one too. And they offer some of the rubber bracelets as well, waterproof, steel, titanium, male, female, children, athletic, dog tag. I mean, they have so many different things that you can order. They're always giving generous discounts. However, if you use the link that's in this post, they will give us a small kickback for your purchases. So
one guess why it's purple.
Why is it purple?
Come on, Karen.
Because of blood?
No, Minnesota.
Oh, is that where you got it from? Warfarin?
Prince.
Oh, well, I didn't know that there was a tie-in between Warfarin and Minnesota and Prince.
No, just purple. The purple. He's purple. Everything about him is purple.
Oh, well, yeah, I
That's
know
what
that.
I figured you'd get it.
Listen, I'm about ready to head off to Minnesota.
I know you are.
You know, and it will
I
be
want
my
pictures.
third or fourth time going into Paisley Park, where you can take no pictures, of course. They take your phone, they lock it up in this like neoprene pouch that they have to use a special key to get it out. And if they catch you taking photos, you will be banned for life. They have a ban list. You can never, ever get back in forever.
Right. Forget that then. Don't want you to get banned from Paisley.
You can Google it. You can Google it. I will just say when I did, I was very disappointed. I thoroughly had a much different vision of Prince's bedroom than what actually is in existence. It is a very regular, plain, he kept it messy bedroom, nothing special, no magic ceilings and starlights and velvet and
stuff hanging from the ceiling.
That's not cool at all.
No, it's not. I really thought it was gonna, like, the minute you walk in, a smoke machine would start and fun lights would be there and it would be a round bit. No, it is just a boring. The rest of the entire house that I did see, it is breathtaking. I am beyond excited to do it all over again. And they have an exhibit of his shoes. So 300 of his shoes I cannot wait to see.
Stoked for you.
It's better than going to Mall of America, where it's exhausting to walk around and then just spend money. So
right. Well, there you have it.
There you have it. All right. So we wrapped up the week with Lawrence Hope. We've got a lot of exciting things happening coming up in the month of February, starting with coming up on Friday. It's going to be our first Friday fundraiser. If you don't have one of our awareness ribbon magnets, you should consider ordering one. There is a link to our swag. You can get this for a $10 donation. These are great. These ribbons are great. Anytime anybody wears swag, you always will get a question. I guarantee somebody will ask you, what is it you're wearing? And it's a great way to start a conversation about aortic disease and get people thinking. If anybody in your family has had an aneurysm of any type, died suddenly without explanation, has an inflammatory issue, they should probably talk to their doctor about having a baseline. So that's coming up. And then we get to do this all over again next Monday.
Yay.
So for those of you watching, for those of you, again, watch on replay, leave us a comment. ask a question, we'll get back to you. And most importantly, like and share and subscribe wherever the button is that I'm pointing. So, but I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today in our weekend review. So exciting. Thank you.
Thanks for
Have
having
a
me.
wonderful week, and I'll talk with you guys soon.
All right.
See ya.
Take care, Karen.
Take care, everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Chris.
Bye.